What makes a horror game villain scary? Is it the way they advance slowly and deliberately toward your position with sinister intentions, looking to separate you from all those lovely limbs you've grown so fond of? Is it the unshakable will and insurmountable determination they exhibit as they steamroll through the opposition with an unnerving lack of empathy or self-control, all to further their goals of world domination, annihilation, or
complete global saturation?
Is it that horrific face resembling a rejected McDonald's patty that only a mother could love? I'm just kidding. They don't reject that shit. In my opinion, it's all of the above. There's no one defining characteristic that makes something scary, unless you're this thing.
Everything's okay.
Nope.
But rather, it's a combination of traits which all add and compound to the abyssal depths of these unhinged characters, resulting in creatures truly worthy of the term nightmare fuel. In this list, I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite horror game villains, and why I think they are terrifying. Before we get into it though, I would like to stress that, as I'm sure you're aware, horror is subjective, meaning what scares you will not necessarily scare me, and vice versa. So this list is my personal opinion. Please don't rage if your favorite character isn't on this list. There are a lot of villains to choose from. Let me know who your favorites are in the comments and maybe I'll do a video on them in the future. Also, this is not a ranking video, so this list is in no particular order. They're just the ones who left the most lasting impression on me. And as a general rule, I've taken one character per series. Otherwise, this would probably just be a Resident Evil video. Right, I think I've said all that needs to be said, so without further ado, let's begin the video. Ah, PT, the most tragic story in all of gaming history. The true what-if scenario.
Do it.
My dear child, you did not deserve the fate which befell you. If you don't know, PT was intended to be the horror brainchild of Hideo Kojima, creator of Metal Gear, and director Guillermo del Toro, and was somewhat meant to revive the, then, long-stagnant Silent Hill series. PT stands for Playable Teaser. It was a short demo with the reveal at the end announcing the full project was to be titled Silent Hills. Some falling out behind the scenes between Kojima and publisher Konami unfortunately saw this endeavor shelved indefinitely, and oh how my heart still aches and my soul still weeps. But I digress. In PT, you awaken within a mysterious vacant house. This house seems pretty idyllic until you realize you're stuck in a loop with some pretty funky stuff going on. A news report of a heinous murder plays on the radio, time stands still, a bloody fridge hangs from the ceiling, and whatever the hell this thing is supposed to be. No, that's not those sketchy ass 3 for 15 acid tabs you took. Boy, you were in Silent Hill! While you wander these atmospheric hallways, the hairs on your neck begin to stand as you cannot shake the feeling that you are being watched. Finally, you catch sight of it. This is Lisa, the unholy specter of the murdered woman the news report spoke of. She stalks and observes your vain attempts to break the loop. Her presence is felt throughout the whole of the demo, with fleeting glimpses caught, and having your ears pleasantly serenaded with her ghastly moans, wails, and cries. Lisa strikes a terrifying visage, with her movements being erratic, jerky, and completely unnatural. Her horror for me lies within the fact she is an unknown entity who watches you from a distance, initially, and you have no idea what this creature's intentions for you are. But what really makes her scary for me is this. Lisa's backstory is extremely limiting, what with the project being canned and all. What little we can glean is that she was allegedly stabbed to death by her husband, who gouged out her right eye. This is reflected in her character model, with the husband claiming afterwards that he was possessed. He also poked some new holes in her stomach while she was pregnant. We can only speculate as to why Lisa was cursed to forever roam the looping hallways of PT's house, but this is Silent Hill, so it was bound to be all kinds of f***ed up. I'm overjoyed that Kojima set up his own studio after this debacle, and then had creative freedom to make whatever he wanted to make. By the way, you should play Death Stranding too. It's good. It's really good. But I can't help but feel a gaping hole in my very being at the tantalizing prospect of what could have been. Feast your eyes on this abhorrent abomination, which coincidentally also shares a name with a distant ex of mine. What now resembles a repugnant love child between Sadako Wolverine and Machamp was once just a sweet, innocent 17-year-old girl with a fondness for red dresses, whose only crime was caring too much for her creepy younger brother. Born to a wealthy family, Laura and her brother Ruvik lived out their lives in relative comfort. Aside from her brother's psychopathic tendencies, all was well. At some point, their parents acquired some farmland. However, it is implied the previous owners were dissatisfied with this transaction. While playing in a barn on Mommy and Daddy's newly underhandedly acquired property, the disgruntled owners return, having decided they wish to renegotiate the terms of their deal, and set fire to the barn, trapping the two children inside. It is also implied that they knew there were children in the barn, they just didn't care. The pair managed to locate a high-up window, and Laura boosts her brother out of it. Ruvik, though severely burned, manages to survive this ordeal. However, with no means to escape herself, Laura is left to be devoured by the flames as her agonizing screams echo across the farmland. She manages to find the spot the fire can't reach and is saved from being entirely consumed, but her injuries prove too severe and she collapses, entering a vegetative state and dying shortly afterwards. And so ends that sweet little girl's oh-so-tragic story. Kind of. This whole affair shatters Ruvik's already fragile and tenuous mental state. Ruvik is the main antagonist of Evil Within, and he cared deeply for his sister. So deep that it's hinted he harbored incestuous feelings for her, but I'm staying so far away from that one. Her loss pushes Ruvik to murder his parents to inherit their wealth so he can fund his brain research, and he goes on to create the STEM system, with the goal in mind being to reunite him with his sister. STEM is basically a VR machine on steroids, with said VR machine also transporting one into the bowels of madness itself. The whole game takes place in what is essentially Ruvik's broken mind, and everything the player witnesses is his warped and twisted interpretation of reality. What with this being the fractured mind of a mad scientist / serial killer, you're inevitably fated to run into all kinds of grotesque manifestations, with one of these manifestations being Laura. And she isn't so sweet and innocent anymore. Reincarnated as a macabre fusion between human and spider, Laura hunts the protagonist, Sebastian, through the darkest depths of depravity and despair, never relenting in her pursuit to strip flesh from bone with elongated razor-sharp claws. Laura's appearance is designed to instill terror, with ghostly white and charred skin, rotting, bloodshot and empty eyes, and long, grimy, gore-soaked hair. Also seems she retains her love for the color red.
Holy shit!
Laura will rush madly at the player with the intensity of a frenzied beast that cannot be contained, with the only thought in mind being to rip, crush, mangle, and tear, and her unearthly howls help to hammer this point home. She has one of the most fear-inducing appearances I have ever witnessed. She is only defeated after Sebastian and the player realize her aversion to fire and utilize this against her. And with that comes an end to Laura's tormented existence, punctuated by a final pitiful scream as the flames finally claim their tragic victim. I guess not really though, because technically none of this is real, but my thing is more poetic. Laura will remain forever etched onto my mind and has more than earned her spot as one of gaming's most terrifying villains. While she reappeared again briefly for the sequel, this time as one of Sebastian's memories, any hopes for her revival appear to be dashed, and just any hopes for Evil Within in general, as Tango Gameworks has since had its doors closed. In her short appearance, Laura has cemented herself as one of the most horrific and nightmare-inducing creations ever put to paper. But the real question I have at the end of all this is, did Lil Bro still want to tap that? Keeping up with the theme of freakishly frightening femme fatales and another lover of the color red, up next we have Alma Wade from the Fear series. What's that, I hear you cry? Fear isn't a horror game. Fear isn't scary. Well, my good sir, to you I say, ghost rape. True, Fear isn't really a horror game, it's more of a shooter with horror elements, but you can't deny that Alma brings those elements to the forefront whenever she appears on screen. She exudes a looming and sinister presence, and she emits a frightening aura that shouldn't be possible from a child. And I suppose that's because she isn't really a child. Alma was born to Harlan and Elizabeth Wade, and from the beginning possessed an exorbitant amount of psychic and telekinetic capability, which also seemed to make her mentally unstable. Alma's mother died in childbirth, and her life was placed solely in the hands of her father, Harlan. Harlan's chosen course of action was to then give a huge middle finger to all that good dad stuff and lease his daughter out to the company he worked for, so they could conduct inhumane and horrifying experiments on his beloved daughter. Father of the year right there. Eventually, our captors deem she's grown too powerful, and talks begin of creating a fetus from her DNA as it would be easier to control. Talks also begin about impregnating Alma with said fetus. Alma was 7. They quickly realize that 7-year-olds can't do that shiz, and instead place her into a medically induced coma so that fruit can ripen. Her father is actually against this idea. The coma, not the whole impregnate my daughter thing. 2 children are born during this project, one when Alma was 14 and the other when 15. 10 years later, while still in a coma, Alma reaches out and merges her consciousness with the second child, Paxton Fettle, essentially
Assuming direct control.
And he rampages through the facility he's held at, killing several staff and researchers. Following this event, Alma's life support is severed and she is left to die. It takes 6 days for Alma's physical body to perish, but her spirit, burning with fierce desire for revenge against her captors, lingers on, and 20 years later, she would exact that revenge. Now, if that ain't one of the most gruesome, sick, and twisted backstories you've ever heard, then, I don't know, go see a therapist or something. It's the first time I felt sorry for a homicidal and deranged ghost kid.
What the fuck?
Alma has an extensive list of psychokinetic abilities with which to bring about your swift and painful demise. As a telepath, Alma can project her image to appear to chosen people. These images can vary, but by far her favorite image is that of her spooky 7-year-old self. While projecting, she may utilize other powers such as levitation, telekinesis, pyrokinesis, possession. She can summon demons and tentacles, and let's not forget her most fearsome ability, sexual assault. Even after she kills you, death may not be the end, as she can still choose to trap your spirit and condemn you to eternal torment to an indeterminate time of her choosing. Should you come face to face with Alma, the advised course of action would be to immediately turn about, run for the hills, and pray to all that is holy that she has something more important on her mind than your pitiful ass, because your chances of survival are significantly less than 0%. All this little lady has to do is think it, and boom, you're a crispy skeleton. And that's the desirable outcome. She may choose to drive you insane instead. If you're super unfortunate, she may develop feelings for you and then decide to keep you around as a pet sperm donor. I guess ghosts can be narcissists too. She's a constant threat in the first game, and you're never too far away from her next happening. And she's even more prevalent in the second entry, where the horror of this series really shines. 2 is a good game, you sons of bitches. Come at me. Fear is the goat of horror shooters, and even today there's nothing that quite matches its energy, but I feel it would be nowhere near as memorable without sweet little Armor at the center of all the carnage.
We are the end of everything.
Okay, so Mass Effect, definitely not a horror game, but I really wanted a cosmic horror entry, and Big Daddy Cthulhu ain't been doing so hot lately, so I chose the next best thing. The Reapers are an advanced and ancient machine race of colossal size and intellect, and are something akin to what Bender would come up with were you to ask him to wipe out all organic life. I rarely see Reapers mentioned as some of the scariest creatures, and I just think that's completely unfair, because these guys are dope. Before we dive a bit deeper though, I would first like to clarify what cosmic horror actually is, because it's a definition I see that gets misconstrued a lot.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Cosmic horror isn't horror in space as I see it colloquially termed, rather space is just coincidentally a setting which stories from this subgenre tend to thrive the most in.
But as one trained in the Force, you know that true coincidences are rare.
Cosmic horror is about the fear of the unknowable and unexplainable. It's about the fear that out there exist creatures so old and powerful that our tiny primitive brains would struggle to even comprehend their existence. Creatures so formidable that when faced with their presence instill madness in lesser life forms and cause minds to shatter when faced with the stark reality that when compared to these entities, it is nothing more than an inconsequential and insignificant speck in existence. Beings which raise questions of humanity's dominance, as we are quickly forced to realize that our dominance is ostensibly a lie, and the Reapers epitomize this point perfectly. In the Mass Effect universe, millions or perhaps billions of years ago, there once existed a hyper-intelligent and telepathic race of aquatic creatures named the Leviathans. They were tyrannical in nature and used their abilities to dominate other creatures and transform them into thralls, and then use them to subjugate the galaxy. Eventually, the Leviathans noticed how organics and synthetics always warred with each other, and so it set about creating an advanced AI with the mandate to protect all life. The Leviathans also foresaw that this AI may at some point rise up against them, but in their hubris concluded that if and when that happened, their superiority would see them victorious. I guess they didn't know their mind powers don't work on machines. This AI did indeed rightfully come to view the all-consuming and conquering squid people as a threat to the entire galaxy, so it wiped them out and created the first Reaper from their remains, Harbinger. But the AI didn't stop there. Oh no. It wiped out pretty much all intelligent organic life as its twisted way of preserving the galaxy, with the reasoning that life was fated to rush itself towards its own destruction by creating AI, and by wiping it out before it reaches that point, they were essentially allowing life to restart, thus ensuring its existence. This cycle continued for eons, with each cycle creating a new Reaper from the organic material harvested by the species. And by the time we get to Mass Effect, there are a lot of Reapers. They also viewed the creation of a new Reaper as a way of preserving the species that came the cycle before. So in a really messed up way, they think they're doing you a favor. As they so eloquently put it, bringing order to the chaos. The Reapers are incredibly intimidating in stature, with even a smaller variant dwarfing most other sentient life forms. They are highly intelligent, conniving, and manipulative, and exert a calculating coldness when harvesting victims. A prime example of their superior perceptiveness is how they created the mass relays, which allow for interstellar travel, and then left them behind for organics to find, ensuring they base their technology on Reaper tech, in conjunction advancing alongside paths dictated by the Reapers. You ain't outsmarting these guys. After a cycle, they meticulously scour galactic records and wipe all evidence and traces of their presence, ensuring that all who come after remain oblivious to the fate that's in store for them. After a cycle is complete, they retreat into dark space and hibernate until the next civilization reaches a point they deem acceptable for harvest. And then they emerge from the void like a fever dream I had when I ate some bad sushi. They dominate their quarry with advanced weapon systems and use indoctrination to destroy social and command structures. They employ nanobites which convert organics into mindless husks, and they deploy viruses which corrupt or destroy synthetic life. They are ruthless and meticulous in their approach to extinction, and while a handful of life forms have been known to evade these purges, never on a scale required to rebuild galactic civilization. Despite the atrocities they commit, the Reapers don't see themselves as sinister or evil beings. They don't hate organics and are simply indifferent. The harvesting to them is a necessity required by life's inadequacy at sustaining itself. Without them, life could not exist, and their annihilation of a species is not a punishment, but rather a reward when they transcend and achieve perfection and immortality by way of a Reaper constructed from their genetic material. Despite believing themselves to be gods, the Reapers are not invincible, and are just as susceptible to their own weaponry as others, proven when the Alliance reverse engineer equipment based on their technology. Sustained fire from multiple Dreadnought-class warships can also take a Reaper down, though this one's a bit more of a flex. They are eventually defeated at the end of the trilogy, and I feel this dampens their horror a little bit, but this ain't a horror game, so I guess humanity had to defeat the evil invading cuttlefish. The Reapers are what you get when someone does cosmic horror correctly. Looming, eldritch, dread-inducing creatures that can enslave your mind with a thought and force you to betray everything you love, only to eventually destroy you after you have served your purpose, along with everything else. Wait. Hold on. Not this guy. That's better.
Stars.
Let me ask you something. Why would you take something that's fundamentally perfect, flawless, and beloved by so many and rebrand it to inferior, schlocky dog shit? Last up on this list, we have gaming's original stalker enemy. I actually think it was this guy, but I won't tell if you don't. Nemesis. My feelings about the RE3 remake aside, which, by the way, if you think was anything other than a shameless cash grab, then you're part of the problem, my friend. They cut half the damn game. Nemesis will still always hold a special place in my heart, and I will always consider him to be the quintessential monster feature. That's it. It ain't getting any better than Nema, bro. We hit peak like 30 years ago. If you didn't grow up in the 90s or early 2000s, then you probably don't get it, but let me try and paint you a picture. Horror games back then all followed similar design structures, fixed camera angles, rooted to the spot when firing, etc, etc. So the rules across all games were pretty universal. One of these rules was that you could usually transition to different areas if you were in danger of being overwhelmed by enemies, and this would lead you to relative safety. Enemies were generally consigned to a single area, and their coding wouldn't allow for them to leave that area, so you knew you were always just a button press and a loading screen away from some breathing room. Then along came Nemesis and turned absolutely everything on its head. True story, when this big hulking unit of a meat brick first followed me through a door, well, I dropped that controller so hard and didn't play again for years. I said breathing room earlier. Nemesis don't let you breathe. He follows you around with a pillow held to your face the entire time, smothering the shit. It's the earliest memory I can recall of having my expectations completely subverted, and boy was my tiny baby brain subverted. Who wouldn't find this terrifying? I mean, dude bursts through the window with a goddamn rocket launcher and traps you in a corridor in the police station, and you're just there like... I love Nemesis so much that I even like this piece of shit just cause he's in it. But okay, enough gushing. I'm gonna move on now. Nemesis T-Type is a biological superweapon developed by the European branch of Umbrella, and was the culmination of the Nemesis project, which was a series of experiments involving infection of host T-103 tyrants with the Nemesis alpha parasite. So Nemesis is basically just a juiced up Mr. X. Several Nemesis T-Types were created, but the second type is the one we're all familiar with, and is the only one in-universe to have experienced combat. The goal of the Nemesis was to create a weapon which retained its intelligence after infection, because up till that point, the viruses available would cause a significant degradation of mental faculties, which made hosts virtually uncontrollable. And turns out nobody wants to buy weapons they can't control, so Umbrella cooked up this guy. After the destruction of the Tyrant and the Spencer Mansion, Umbrella programmed Nemesis with the directive to eliminate all those pesky Starfellows, and they used the chaos of the T-virus outbreak in Raccoon City to airdrop Nemesis in to fulfill that directive and record its combat capabilities. Nemesis is a hulking brute whose design echoes Frankenstein's creation, with the staples across his head reminiscent of the Patchwork Monster. He has a single dead, cloudy, and pupilless eye, with the other being closed over with extra skin, and virtually no lips to speak of, which I imagine would make it difficult to find a T-type girlfriend. He rocks a trench coat cause my boy's got drip, and it comes with the added bonus of compacting all those freakish tentacles. You hear me? I said drip, not literal trash bags.
Look how they massacred my boy.
After his epic entrance, he chases Jill Valentine, the playable character, through most of the game. Most of the game, not 2 damn areas. And attacks with rockets, tentacles, and running haymakers. You can also grab and administer big toothy kisses. The ferocity and tenacity with which he pursues STARS members is truly terrifying, and he will often ignore other threats to focus on Jill and Jill alone. which really helps to convey that this monstrosity was designed to kill you. The attention he gives would almost be flattering if he wasn't trying to eat you. After numerous encounters with Nemesis throughout the game, and witnessing several mutations, it climaxes with an epic showdown, and he's beaten after you lead him in front of this big, badass laser. Not this thing. Come on, look at this thing. I doubt even max level roid raging boulder crushing Chris Redfield could accomplish this, and you're telling me Lara Croft over here is lifting this shit with a pair of twigs? Get to fuck! When Nemesis shows up, it's hunter versus hunted, and you definitely feel like the prey. Probably the most iconic creature for myself and many others. The real Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, and the definitive way to experience Resident Evil 3. But if you absolutely, positively must play the remake, then I would suggest installing a mod to reskin Nemesis. It won't stop the smell of dog shit, but it will at least try to hide the smell with some deodorant. Well, that's gonna do it for this list. Before we finish up though, if you would be so kind as to allow me to direct your attention towards the Stop Killing Games initiative. So, the thing is, game publishers really like putting this little clause into the EULAs, you know, those terms and conditions you never read. Don't worry, I don't read them either, which stipulates that they can discontinue support for a title for any or no reason, which basically means that game you paid for loses features that you paid for. I recently played through both Rainbow Six Vegas games, and wow, what stellar titles, even today. The campaigns are great, Terrorist Hunt is revolutionary, and the multiplayer is... Oh. It crashes the game. Game experience? What fucking experience? Ubisoft is probably the worst for this. Remember when they were all like, people should be comfortable not owning their games? Yeah, fuck those guys. Stop Killing Games is trying to preserve these video games so they forever keep the features they were intended to have. If you're a gamer, or even if you just like games a little tiny bit, then please drop a signature. It's currently at over 1 million signatures, which is incredible. Okay, so yeah, get it signed. Your kids are gonna love it. That's gonna do it from me, everyone. I hope you all had fun watching. Let me know who your favorites are in the comments. It could give me more ideas for video content. And maybe drop a like or a sub if you enjoyed. Take care, everyone, and have a great day.